Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Gentle Art of Crushing It. Today we have my friend, the amazing Marta. And so Marta, it's been a little while. Like, you were a host with us for a while and you've went on to do bigger and more fun and exciting things, maybe more in alignment with your goals is the best way to put that. But it has been a while. So I'm really excited to have you back on and get caught up with everything that is, that you're working on in your life. So would you mind please just sort of, filling us in a bit about, on who you are, what you love to do, and please share something with us that most people wouldn't know about you.
Cool. Well, so I think the last time we chatted, what year was that in?
I'm going to say 2022, I think. I think that's when I first interviewed you on the show.
That sounds right. Okay. So, it seems like a lot's happened since 2022. And I remember the last time we spoke, I was actually exploring hospitality. And when I was exploring hospitality, I was looking at one deal that was taking maybe 6 months to figure out if it was a good deal or not. And I kind of like put a stop to that and said, what am I missing? I'm missing something if I'm looking at the same deal for 6 months, right? And so I took a little bit of a pause on that and said, okay, let's think about what I really need, and let's try to go after whatever it is that's missing. We had, in that thought process, we also had a big family move. So that took up 2023. But then once things settled down, the thing that I wanted to do was acquire a business, right? And I was like, okay, I want to pivot in my career, leave healthcare possibly, and just be my own boss and have my own business. And so at the time I was doing a lot of self-educating on what does that entail? What do I need to do? And the one thing that I kind of saw a common thread through is this like lack of community. And I realized that that's what happened with the hospitality journey that I was on before, is like, I kind of had the skill set to be able to analyze deals, but I wasn't entirely sure or confident in whether or not I was making the right decisions. And so that led me to actually joining a community that we were both a part of, Action Academy, which is exactly what I needed. Yeah. Yeah. Had the support, had the amazing people, and I'm still a part of it. And I've just been loving it. It's been exactly what I needed. Really, no matter what you're doing, whatever asset class you're pursuing, you just, in addition to, the content knowledge, underwriting, sourcing deals, you need a support community to tell you like, yeah, that looks like a great deal, or this is how you write an LOI, really things that some would consider super easy. Like when you're first starting out, they're actually really daunting. And so joining that community has been a huge game changer for me. Since we last spoke, I actually spent 6 months in the self-storage space, acquired a self-storage facility with another member in the community.
Well, let's not gloss over that because that's huge, because, and I also I just didn't want to interject yet. I do want to say that the Action Academy is super amazing. And I agree 1,000%. The community is there. Community is important. But I also agree with you 1,000% in the sense that like, just even like writing an LOI, it's so like big. And for me, like overwhelming and, so it does help, like Action Academy, and the mentors are there. So however you do it, again, the Action Academy I highly recommend, but get a mentor if you're not going to do that. But like, I love that because you went from just a few months of like, I'm not sure what I want to do, to joining the Action Academy and then within, what did you say, within how long after joining the Action Academy did you actually purchase a self-storage facility?
Within 5 months, I would say.
5 months is and that's like, to me, super fast, because a lot of people like me, for example, will kick around the idea of like, whatever, I want to do self-storage. I'm going to research it for like
Yeah.
3 years and then pull the
Yeah.
trigger, you know?
Yeah.
So it is a huge deal. So huge congrats to you. And would you mind sharing with us just a little bit about, I mean, what you learned, from underwriting all the way through closing to managing, and maybe just give us a couple of, tips there that could help the listener.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest takeaway for me so I started analyzing self-storage deals in December of 2023 and have been consistently analyzing self-storage deals up until maybe a few weeks ago when I took a little bit of a pause to set up my systems to automate some of the stuff I'm doing and outsource it. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't do it myself first, understood what it really takes, right, to get it done, and then be able to write my own SOPs and my own sort of like roles and responsibilities for whoever I'm bringing on my team, right? And so um the persistence and the incremental daily actions honestly were like just they're so under what's the word for it, like people don't focus on the process when they look at someone's success, but that's really where the bulk of the work happens that gets you to that outcome that you want, right? The outcome doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't magically appear in 3 to 6 months. I think like what I've learned over the last 4 or 5 months or so, just in really focusing on one thing. Number one, that's probably the first takeaway actually, is like focus on one thing. It felt so freeing to push everything else off my plate and say, I'm doing this and I'm going to acquire self-storage facility. And that's literally all I focused on. And every day I had my KPIs and I took daily action and I said, okay, every day I'm going to analyze two deals a day. And I'm going to submit one offer a day. Right. And I did that consistently for a period of maybe 3 to 4 months. And so I didn't get a facility under contract, but I had the process in place to be able to do it if the offers lined up with the seller expectations, right? So I got over the hurdle of like the mental block of, oh my gosh, I'm scared to submit an LOI, to now I'm submitting LOIs every day, right? So I would just say, number one, focusing is critical. Number two, being patient with yourself to learn something at a deeper level. And that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over a week, right? There's nuances. You're always running into things that you have questions about. And so that took, 4 weeks for me to be able to get into like a groove of, okay, I know what I'm doing. This is on autopilot for me now. And then just having that daily routine. What are you going to do every day to make that happen, right? And the consistency that goes along with it. So it was just really fulfilling to like have my process down. And now I'm able to, I'm at a point where I'm actually looking to bring people onto the team to help with the acquisition portion so that I can focus on other things. So
I love that. I mean, it's a, like, you've forced someone to step into self-storage, acquisitions and running and all that fun stuff, into now you building your team. Like, from my understanding, what in real estate investing, that usually is not happening for a lot of people till 3-5 years down the road. So it is brilliant that you're tackling that now. And so I love that. Now, so with that being said, let me ask you this. You also talked about, building out your team for acquisitions, and which is awesome because you're laying a foundation so you can grow, right? So I know that, there's some stuff that you're working on right now. You've got some hurdles that you're working on, but like big term, like vision, let's say 3-5 years down the road, where do you see yourself, and what do what excites you? Like, because I know it's big. I know you're dreaming big. So please, if you don't mind sharing with us, like, where you see yourself down the road a bit.
Yeah. So I think in the immediate term, I'm setting up my self-storage acquisition to be sort of on autopilot with a few hours looking at it a week just to make sure things are going smoothly and following up on any leads that we might have. On the other side, I'm also going to be in the next 3 to 4 months trying to focus on a business acquisition. And that's my next goal here. And that's why I really wanted to get one thing automated to enable like kickstarting a different thing that I'm pursuing. I think long term, the vision is be my own individual entrepreneur and business owner, right? And then, the plan would be to grow and scale, right? So wherever the business acquisition path takes me, the idea would be to continue acquiring, growing, maybe have some sort of roll up strategy within the business space, and then continue to grow on the self storage side. I'm still bullish on self storage. I'm really bullish on business acquisitions. I was focusing on it last year briefly, and now I'm going back to it with a more refined focus on what I really want. So, yeah, I think the ultimate goal would be to continue to grow and scale the businesses, and hopefully start building teams because of the scale. So,
yeah, they'll translate from one business to the other, like for the most part, right?
mm-hmm.
And so again, I think it's brilliant that you're stepping into that now as opposed to trying to tackle that down the road. And so I do love that. Now, what would you say, mindset wise has changed for you over the past couple of years? And then, what would you say is maybe a key or two that helped you sort of like shift that? Because we started the conversation with you talking about that first deal that you focus on for like 6 months, and where you're at now. So what are a couple things that you've noticed, like growth wise, in your mindset over the past couple of years?
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing, so I used to be this person that would like jam pack my day with stuff that I need to get done. And when I started working with a mentor, and we sort of like built out a plan, like a 30, 60, 90-day plan for how I was going to, number one, learn self-storage, but number two, acquire a facility and what it all took to get there. We didn't learn everything from A to Z in a day, a week. It took, a good month to kind of refine everything. And so the one thing that really stuck with me from that experience was, wait, like you actually don't need to jam pack your day, right? You don't need to focus on 10 million different things. Actually, you're more effective if you do less, right? And you're also more effective if you focus on one thing. And so I had my routine down, right? From like 5:30 to 6:30 every morning. I would wake up and I'd go to my computer and I would start analyzing deals. I would then take another hour in the afternoon. Okay, I've analyzed them in the morning. Now I can prepare the offers to go out, right? Same day, right? So it was, and even though I was only doing those two things, right? Actually, like at the end of my day, I felt like I had accomplished something. Like I felt good about setting a bar for myself that I knew I could achieve, that was still getting me closer and closer to my ultimate outcome and target. So I think two takeaways is like, you don't need to learn whatever it is that you're pursuing overnight. So take little chunks of time every day and consistently build that into your workday, and do little
but bits and pieces of it at a time. And again, the other big thing that I can't stress enough is like, it's real. Focusing on one thing makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So thanks, Marta. Yeah, it's cool because it's come up twice that you've talked about when you first got started, you were gonna analyze 2 deals, send out 1 offer per day. And you did mention this, and I think that this is like so important that this is why I'm bringing it up, because you did say something like, hey, even though you didn't get a lot of offers accepted, um, if you just take that piece out, like if you take all the pressure out of like actually closing on a deal and you focus on just analyzing a couple deals and sending out an offer, because that is in itself like can be scary, right? I'll say for me, that's scary, right? And so, I think that that's the power. Not it's you're walking through the fear, but you are also going like, hey, you know, to sort of like, touch on what you're saying with one thing, like you're focusing on self-storage. And so within that, what are the actions that you have to do, right? So analyzing a couple deals, sending out 1 offer per day. And if these are there, my point that I'm trying to get to is that they are not going to be perfect. When we start out, they're going to be bad. And that's okay, because the more it actually requires us to look at deals and to underwrite them to be able to see better opportunities.
Yep.
And it's like you said earlier, if you're going to pass the baton on, you build a team, you have to, if you want to bring somebody on your team that like, is the underwriter, you have to know how to underwrite so you can like check their work, but also, so it just makes so much sense that whatever endeavor you're starting, would you agree with this, Marta, that chunk it down and do the most entry level, like, least scary thing, but like actually, set KPIs, like you said earlier, and track your metrics and continue to, move that needle forward. Like,
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I think if you say, I want to acquire a storage facility, okay, well, what does that mean? Okay, it means I have to analyze X number of deals, right? To have even a shot at it, right? At the possibility of acquiring one. Okay, well, I need to know how to analyze deals. I need to figure out how to find deals. Like just in the deal acquisition, there's a lot to unpack there, right? But when you unpack it, like you can reach out to someone and say, hey, can you help, like can you tell me where you find deals? Okay, great, I'm going to go to those places. Okay, now you go to those places and you say, okay, can someone help me to analyze, like figure out how to analyze these deals? Okay, now you know how to analyze these deals at a high level to be able to submit an LOI. Okay, now who's got an LOI template? Okay, here we go, right? Like all these things and like the little nuances, like there's a lot to unpack there just in like not even the acquisition, like pre-acquisition, right? Like pre-LOI. So yeah, it can be overwhelming if you say, I want to acquire a facility, but if you really like break that down into really tiny chunks that you can manage yourself, I think it becomes just less scary, right?
Yeah, I love it. And, a habit, right? Which is really hard to break, hopefully. So that's super cool. And, this I've been actually, I like to see what people are doing, and it's not always going to be applicable, but just out of curiosity, when you're doing because, okay, what I want the audience to understand is there's a lot of different ways to analyze deals. If a self-storage facility could take a newbie quite a while to get in there and do a full underwriting. So, would you say for somebody who's starting at first, should they figure out just some sort of back of the napkin analyzing, and they're doing about 2 of those, sending out 1 offer kind of thing to start? Or how do you recommend they start?
Huge. Yes. I think you need to understand at a high level the fundamentals that go into it, right? So if I have a facility and it's bringing X amount of revenue, right? If I offer this price, this is my loan amount. If I take away the debt, if I take away the, big ticket items like taxes, insurance, and then expenses, and you kind of have to unpack the expenses for a storage facility if you're, you know, brand spanking new to the asset class, because you have to understand, like, okay, what is a typical expense ratio for a storage facility, and like what are the different buckets and categories, and how much are they typically, right? So I would say even the fundamentals, like if you can know the fundamentals, then the deeper underwriting will not be as daunting.
Mm.
You know?
Love it. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Great advice. This next question is going to kind of shift the conversation a bit. We are getting close to wrapping this up. This is a completely different interview than I usually do, and I apologize because I took all the questions and asked you and just threw it out, because this is a like a reunion. Like, we're catching up, and and I wanted to have you on the show again, Marta, to celebrate you, because when honestly, and I know we have to give all the credit to you for you having a breakthrough, because in self-storage, and it is no small thing. That is a huge thing. Most people will never do that. Most people will look at any form of commercial real estate and go like, this is impossible. Then they start with SFRs and do that for 15 years and then consider, like, so kudos to you. And also, the reason why I wanted to have you on here to celebrate you is because a couple of years ago, it did seem like, with that, when you're working on that deal for about 6 months, like, I would say that and I could be totally wrong, but would you agree that you felt kind of stuck there? And so now you've had this massive breakthrough. There's some other stuff that you're working on, like business acquisitions, which is sort of a, necessity, or like a strong desire, but there's a good reason for you to go after that. But like, that is a huge breakthrough. So would you agree with that? And, and then I do have a follow-up question, which is, how do you define success? Because I love asking that question, because everybody does it differently. And it's a good question to think about.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. So breakthrough for sure. I think, I kind of chuckle at the old version of myself in 2022, when I took 6 months to analyze a deal and then never actually submitted an LOI for it. I went out there, did a field trip to the facility, and, took up a broker's time, a seller's time. And if I were to do it over again, if I had that deal in front of me today, I would probably know who to tap into to help me analyze it, and then probably put an offer down that, if I recall the price point of that facility correctly, it was way overpriced, because it had like a real estate component to it. And so the business itself, I could totally evaluate right now, right? And be comfortable with it. And then, anyway, but yeah, today I would definitely put an LOI down on that sucker. And then in terms of how do I define success, I think it's like when you're loving what you're doing, and it, like, you want to do it every day, right? Like, I got up every day and I was actually really excited to analyze deals, and like, and
That's
before that
crazy.
I was like,
Crazy awesome.
I was so afraid to analyze these. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it felt weird if for any reason I ever had to skip a day. It just felt weird. I was like, okay, like, let me just peek and see like what's on the market today, right? And so it's like when you can actually enjoy what you're doing and you see that it's actually going somewhere, right? Because it does take time to see the results, and you just have to be patient with yourself. But as long as you're enjoying the process, I think that's like more than half the battle.
Yeah, no, I love that. And if we kind of just were to take that and focus on, hey, I want to make sure I'm enjoying the process. I want to make sure I'm enjoying my life. And when we're not, ask ourselves, how can I change, my life so that I think, like, it doesn't really get much better than that. So that's a brilliant advice. I do have, just a couple more questions that we're about to wrap up, but this question I forgot to ask earlier. What would you say, because you hear different numbers, like I remember years ago hearing Brandon Turner say it's going to be you're going to like get close one deal to every 100 that you analyze, right? And then I heard a guy the other day, he said it was something like 1 out of 15. I'm like, I need to, be doing what you're doing because that's unreal. So like, yeah, what do you think? And what's been your experience?
So, I was told in storage 1 out of every 200. And okay, if that is any indication, I'm at about 188 that I've analyzed. Okay. So I feel like something is coming.
Yeah, you're about to close on another one real soon here.
Right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
I'm almost there, and I'm diversifying strategies and trying to pursue not only on market but also off market. So I feel like there's something there. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that it would be 1 out of 15. That's aggressive. But if you're persistent, I would say 1 out of 100 at the least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it. And I think I'm glad that you're sharing a big number, because what people need to understand is that, and I'm not an expert, I'm a newbie to, real estate investing in general, but like, it's been my experience that a lot of the deals that I look at, I'm mostly looking at multifamily. That's it really right now. They don't make sense. So I have a back of the napkin process that takes like 10 minutes and I have to go like, that one's not going to work. So I think it's good for people to understand it's a big undertaking, right? But chunk it down, like exactly what you're saying, like 2 and 1. Set yourself a goal. Maybe the goal is just like 1 and 1, right? And get started. But I think like, I'm going to take your advice and do 2 and 1. I've been actually like haphazardly analyzing deals and got out of the flow completely altogether. And so I love that. But
Well, just
I
to
also, yeah.
just to put it in perspective, like when I started working with a mentor and he said, just analyze 2 deals a day. I was like, in my head, I'm like, how? Like only 2? What do you
Like, I'm never going to get there.
Yeah. And then when I actually like started doing it every day, I was like, oh yeah, 2 is like way more than enough. Right. Because you also don't want to set yourself up for failure. Right. Like if you say you're going to analyze, and this is me, by the way, with having a full-time job. So I'm like, yeah, two a day is perfect. Like I can get that done in the morning before work starts and then like knock out any offers in the afternoon, like no big deal. If you have more time, great. Maybe you can handle more, right? But you just have to be realistic, right?
Yeah,
With what you can do. And frankly, like 2 a day is still great. Like,
it is great. You're moving. That's 60 a month, right? You're going to be at 200 within 3 months, and it's awesome. So I love that. But I think I wanted to sort of like expand on something you said. Like you want to set yourself up, for success, and most people cannot go from being a couch potato to running a marathon, overnight. So chunk it down, chunk it down, chunk it down. I love that. And, as we are wrapping up here, Marta, again, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you and appreciate your friendship. And, just know that you can always, call me if you need anything. And with that being said, I wanted to kind of reciprocate. So like, are there any deals, I mean, obviously people know they can send self-storage, but like, would you just say, hey, send me any sort of self-storage facility that you're looking at? And how can they, connect with you?
yeah, actually, so the storage facilities, I don't have any exclusions geographically, with the exception of Louisiana and Florida. So those are the 2 states I don't look at, but any other market is fair game. Usually try not to go lower than 20,000 square feet for a facility. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram, Marta Cieslak Suarez, and you can drop those in the notes. It's a little bit of a mouthful to spell out, but yeah, I love to get leads my way for sure.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Marta. And, look forward to catching up with you down the road and learning about that, super amazing business that you acquire that then, helps you to continue moving forward and growing. And so much growth that I've seen in you and like really the past year. And so it's awesome. You're an inspiration. And I hope that people really, really understand that whatever level they're at in life, they can level up, and it can be even quite a few levels, right? And so that's part of the reason why the show is here, is to inspire people to know that they can continue to grow, that they can make their dreams happen. And so you're evidence of that. So, thank you so much, Marta, for joining us on The Gentle Art of Crushing It. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. All right. With that being said, we're going to sign off here, and hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.